All right. What's up, everyone? How's it going? It's been a while. We are live streaming here because not only do we have a Jimmy Butler trade, we have also got the Toronto Raptors involved. And I'm keeping an eye on my phone here to see because it seems to be that apparently the Raptors did not, again, they did not get Kyle Anderson, which is really strange because now it's saying he may not end up with the Toronto Raptors. So, of course, we know Jimmy Butler just got traded to the Golden State Warriors in a massive trade, which involved the Warriors sending out Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and then also some other players as well. But now we're being told, as I'm seeing from Jake Fisher here, now being told that Kyle Anderson may not end up with the Raptors, according to Michael Grange. So we discredit Michael Grange all the time. But what do we have here? He's certainly out the door from the Golden State Warriors to the Miami Heat first and foremost, and we'll see what next home is coming for him. So very interesting, guys. It's been a very long time since I've live streamed here. I was planning on doing it tomorrow, and what do we get? Some massive news regarding the Toronto Raptors. So again, apparently the Raptors were involved in a multi-team deal and getting Kyle Anderson, but it seems like that deal has fallen through now, and I'm just updating my Twitter to see if there's any more news because it wasn't shared when we talk about the Raptors as to who was going where and what parts were moving where. So I'm going to give you guys the details in just a moment. Just give me 1 second here as I update here. But how you guys doing? It's been a long time. Hope you guys are doing well. So David G is asking what happened to the deal. So apparently, what happened is there was a multi-team deal. Apparently, I'm going to go to Shams here because he's the most reliable source here, and I respect to Jake Fisher, but I just want to check Shams Charania just to confirm every news here. So apparently, what happened was Dennis Schroeder was also part of the deal that was headed to Miami, and then Dennis Schroeder is stated by Shams Charania that Dennis Schroeder is headed to Utah and Kyle Anderson to Toronto as part of a multi-team trade, according to Shams Charania. So I was really excited because a lot of different reporters were reporting this. Jake Fisher was reporting that the Raptors received Kyle Anderson, but now we're being told that PJ Tucker is also said to be involved as well. Apparently, he's going to the Miami Heat as well. And then it said Miami is working through a resolution with Kyle Anderson. Toronto portion fell through. Sources said he could stay or be moved. A massive deal with moving parts. So I wonder if it was one of those situations where the Raptors did not want to give up maybe picks involved, a second round pick, whatever the case may be, but it wasn't being reported that the Raptors gave up any particular player, but we are getting this massive news about yeah, apparently T is saying yeah, the Raptors trade fell through for whatever reason. I don't know the specifics yet, and we're just checking here to ensure that some of these trade reports are accurate. Shams Charania did actually report that the Raptors got Kyle Anderson, but how big would that be for a Raptors team to get Kyle Anderson? Kyle Anderson is actually a player. I have a screenshot it right here on my computer. I was going to come up with a video talking about players that Raptors should target. Unfortunately, we've just not been able to make that video due to the amount of rumors that we've been hearing regarding the Toronto Raptors. And it's been surprising that we haven't seen a trade yet, considering there's been so much rumors surrounding Brandon Ingram and the Toronto Raptors as well. So again, for those of you guys just joining me, thanks for being here. Apparently, the Raptors were involved in a multi-team deal, according to Shams Charania, which sent Jimmy Butler to the Warriors, and in return, the Warriors sent Andrew Wiggins, and he also got Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick from the Warriors to the Miami Heat. And then Dennis Schroeder was being rerouted to Utah, where it also stated that Kyle Anderson was headed to Toronto as part of a multi-team deal. But Shams Charania, this seems like one of those trade scenarios when we talk about the Toronto Raptors. You guys remember the trade he had with Damian Lillard coming to Toronto? He didn't specify who was going out in that specific trade, but it's very interesting that Shams always is unable to see who the Raptors are actually giving up. I was very excited to get Kyle Anderson. Now, my initial thought process, I'm not going to lie, I was just jumping up and down. The Toronto Raptors made a trade. We don't make trades too often, so it was kind of cool to see the Raptors being involved. No, so apparently, Grant, it's on hold. Apparently, the Butler trade is still gone through with the Golden State Warriors, and it doesn't surprise me one bit. You know what? That he signed with the Warriors. There was going to be no team in free agency that was going to be able to pay him north of $40 million, let alone 50, $60 million that he got with the Warriors right now. But apparently Miami is working currently through a resolution with Kyle Anderson. Toronto portion fell through. Now I wonder, I don't want to say this, and it sounds bad because we don't want to say that the Toronto Raptors aren't a destination that a lot of players want to go to. But I wonder what part of this trade fell through. Was it the Toronto Raptors not wanting to give up picks? Was it the Toronto Raptors not wanting to include someone like, I don't know, Chris Boucher or Kelly Olynyk? Because now it's saying that Kyle Anderson is not coming to the Toronto Raptors. Is it a case of actually Kyle Anderson stating that he doesn't want to come to Toronto? Because we've seen this in the past, guys. We've seen this in the past where a lot of players get traded, and then all of a sudden you hear Alonzo Mourning saying that he's not going to report to Toronto. I know that was several decades ago now, but it seems like a lot of American players have this superiority complex about coming to Canada to play for Toronto. It's a beautiful city. Of course, the taxes are high, but look, every other city is also just as cold. Everyone always brings up the winters in Toronto and talks about why players do not want to come there. I don't believe it. New York is freezing, Minnesota is freezing. You still get players that go there. Chicago is freezing as well. So yeah, Grant, yeah, of course, anytime. He says thanks for the clarification. So I'm kind of disappointed. I'm very disappointed because Kyle Anderson is a player that I've always liked for the Toronto Raptors, and he fits in so well, right? When you talk about Kyle Anderson and what he's able to do on the floor, and of course, someone tweeted out, this tweet still haunts me, and they're posting Shams Charania about the multi-team deal where the Raptors were getting Damian Lillard, but apparently what happened is apparently Kyle Anderson is not coming here, so a little bit disappointed. I was expecting the Toronto Raptors to be involved, and maybe they still might be. They still might be. We don't know the full details yet, but stay in tune, guys. I haven't done a live stream for a while, so excuse me here if I'm a little bit nervous, to say the least. I'm not a great talker. I'm not a great speaker, so it does take me a little bit of time to kind of get used to being back on live stream after so many years. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be back because there's been so many trade rumors, and I'm just trying to figure out why. Why is Kyle Anderson not coming to Toronto? Because the only logical thing I can think of when we talk about why Kyle Anderson was not traded is possibly just not wanting to give picks up as well. So yeah, this is becoming really weird. I don't know if this is a case of maybe the Raptors backed out last minute because they're trying to trade for Brandon Ingram. Possibly. We got Ira here saying in the chat that Ingram time. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest Brandon Ingram fan for several reasons. Just because you didn't want to pay Pascal Siakam $40 million. You said you're rebuilding. It felt more like a retooling just because Scotty Barnes is so good. You can't afford to have guys on your roster that you were going to trade for that weren't going to impact right away and were going to be good in 3 4 years. It just wasn't going to work with how good Scotty Barnes is. So the Raptors decided to move off of Pascal Siakam, but now you're going to trade for Brandon Ingram. I'm not a big fan of this for several reasons, just because you will have to pay Brandon Ingram north of $40+ million. And look, I really like Brandon Ingram. This is coming from someone who's been a huge Brandon Ingram fan for several years. He's a great scorer, but you really just treated away Pascal Siakam. He said he wanted to be here. He said he loves Toronto, and despite all of the tactics that the front office pulled off in terms of not even trying to negotiate a new contract, but they didn't even tell him they're going to trade him during the summer. Masai said himself that he did not even communicate that to Pascal Siakam. And the fact that he still wanted to see speaks volumes of Pascal Siakam. Now you're going to trade for Brandon Ingram, who's a lot more injury prone. I know he's younger, but it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand the fixation of Brandon Ingram. The only logical sense, again, I will say this time and time again, is if no one wants to take on Bruce Brown's contract and you get someone, let's say like Bruce Brown involved in a Brandon Ingram trade, and then you're giving up Kelly Olynyk or possibly Chris Boucher, then it absolutely makes sense. But let's see if we got any updated news regarding, yeah, it does not seem like there's any update regarding the Raptors trade involvement in the Jimmy Butler. But in terms of Jimmy Butler, let's talk about this to the Warriors, because I did tweet out just several minutes before Shams Charania was reporting that, I said Jimmy Butler is going to re-sign with the Warriors. There's no team that's going to be able to afford him during the offseason. And look, I know Jimmy really wanted to go to the Phoenix Suns, but if it's not there, you get to play with Steph Curry. So obviously the Warriors made a bold move, but I'm sure when we talk about trades like this happening, there's all sorts of chatter going on behind the scenes. The Warriors obviously made that trade and obviously communicated to Jimmy Butler because he said he will sign. That's why they made that trade. And it wasn't a surprise that about 10 minutes after the trade happened, with Jimmy Butler going to the Golden State Warriors, it was announced that he has signed a 2 year. He has turned down his player option and he has signed a 2 year, $121 million contract with the Golden State Warriors, which will pay him about $60 million, which is just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane for Jimmy Butler to be making 30. I mean, how old is he? 35, 36 for a 35-year-old to be making that kind of money is quite impressive. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this deal is going to turn out looking for Toronto Raptors. Yeah, it is very strange. Yeah, we still have no update apparently regarding the Toronto Raptors' involvement in this, but it's also really strange because Ryan Wolstadt he actually tweeted out an hour ago. Chris Boucher went back, not sure why. Is Chris Boucher going out in this deal? I really do wonder, but this is just such a crazy trade because I didn't really see it coming. I'm going to be honest. I really didn't see it coming. I actually thought Kevin Durant would end up going to the Golden State Warriors. But then what happened, of course, we know is Kevin Durant stated that he does not wish to go to the Golden State Warriors. And it makes sense. You know what? He was a player that said he regretted going to the Golden State Warriors, and for him to, go through what he did with his end of his last few years with Golden State Warriors, his feud with Draymond Green, all the media narratives, everything about how he can't win a championship without a super team. He's been trying to prove it, and now he's nearing the end of his career. And I don't think KD would want to. His pride won't let him go back to the Warriors, if anything. Obviously him and Steph Curry are still good friends, but I don't know. I think it was quite obvious that Katie has too much pride, even for someone like him. But so, Nameless, you're asking what happened. So, apparently, the Toronto Raptors were involved. I'm sure you've heard, but Jimmy Butler was traded to the Golden State Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first round pick, which was being reported by Shams Charania. But then it was coming out that Dennis Schroeder is headed to Utah, and then it stated that Kyle Anderson to Toronto as part of a multi-team deal. And now it's stating that Miami is working through a resolution with Kyle Anderson. Toronto's portion fell through. Sources said he could stay or be moved, a massive deal with many moving parts. This is what Shams tweeted out. We haven't really gotten updates since. So yeah, it's kind of a weird, funky. Of course, Shams always reporting something about the Toronto Raptors, and us just not really. The Toronto Raptors are just not, of course, actually being involved in the trade. We've seen this before with Damian Lillard, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. So you got to do some research. A lot of people are saying it's possible that the deal fell through because the Raptors are negotiating something with Brandon Ingram, and I don't know. I do believe I'm obviously going to be on live for at least another hour or so, but I want to see what's going on with the Toronto Raptors here. Are they actually working on a trade proposal with the New Orleans Pelicans, which brings Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors? And one thing I will state, guys, I've said this in my last couple of videos regarding Brandon Ingram. I do believe if it's not Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher, or one of Chris Boucher or Kelly Olynyk going to the Pelicans to make the salaries work, I firmly believe it's going to be RJ Barrett. A lot of people believe, and a lot of people are saying it might be Emmanuel quickly. I don't really believe this for 1 second. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be a situation where the Toronto Raptors will keep RJ Barrett and won't look to reroute him somewhere else. I see this as someone who really likes RJ Barrett and his heart and everything he brings to the Toronto Raptors, but I don't see him staying here long term. Unfortunately, I don't, and I think that is that is one of the situations where if the Raptors do trade for Brandon Ingram, it's going to be one of those cases of RJ Barrett going the other way. And all we see, there's going to be more moving parts, definitely some picks involved as well. But yeah, I'm trying to make sense of why the Raptors would want Brandon Ingram. And to be honest, it's one of those situations where I believe it's going to be one of those situations where the Raptors just realize, hey, you need a score now. You need some scoring. You need some shot creation. And what they're going to do is try to acquire Brandon Ingram to help that because RJ Barrett, as good as he is, as good as he has been for the Raptors earlier this season, he's just not someone they want to pair Scotty Barnes up with the long term, So again, I'm still a little bit sour about the Raptors if they trade for Brandon Ingram, not because I hate Brandon Ingram. I actually really like Brandon Ingram as a player. I think he's an excellent scorer, but the issue becomes for the Toronto Raptors team is, again, a lot of people have said this. I'm not going to go as far as to say this feels like a Rudy Gay trade. If the Raptors were to trade for Brandon Ingram, it just feels like one of those situations where if the Raptors did trade for Brandon Ingram, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. You're gonna pay him exactly how much? $40 million, yet just a season ago, because of salary cap reasons, you let someone like Pascal Siakam, who wanted to be here, not to mention his chemistry with Scotty Barnes here as well. So I have my concerns about Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram fitting in well. They're both number two options. And again, people, guys, don't hate me. I'm saying this now. Scotty Barnes, with respect to him, I just don't think he's a number one option on a championship team. I think he'll be a great number two option. He's a really smart player, really great passer, good defensive player, but I think he just lacks that killer instincts of being that number one option. So you definitely need to pair a true number one option up with Scotty Barnes. Now, does Masai view Brandon Ingram as that? I'm not quite sure. I will say that. I don't think Brandon Ingram is the solution. It's kind of a band-aid trying to fix a leaking pipe, which isn't going to stay on for very long. So again, the whole issue with trading away guys like Pascal Siakam last season was you want to rebuild, but also they're going to do it slowly. Obviously the Raptors with Pascal Siakam, who was, he's 30, 31 now. It was to win now, and now the Raptors are trying to do a win now move with Brandon Ingram. It just doesn't make sense. You want to tank, get Cooper Flag, get Dylan Harper, get Ace Bailey, get any of them. All three are great. All three are great, and see where the Raptors go. It seems like a little bit of Masai Ujiri trying to really rush the process and trying to really make sure that the Raptors become a playoff team or at least a play-in team at the moment. But I don't like this, guys. What do you think of the Brandon Ingram trade rumors? I personally do not want him unless you're getting him on the very cheap, which includes Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher, and maybe a couple of second-round picks. But I don't like the Brandon Ingram trade rumors to the Raptors unless it's that. So even RJ Barrett, that would be a very funky move for a team like the Toronto Raptors. I understand if you don't want to extend RJ Barrett, but trade him for something else, man. Don't trade him for Brandon Ingram. Oh, well, this is aren't the Chicago Bulls a funny team? They just extended Lonzo Ball to a 2-year, $20 million contract. Well, this is strange. This is really strange considering that he was in the trade rumors and now all of a sudden they're extending him. I really don't get this. This is a strange move for the Chicago Bulls, but Chicago Bulls are also one of those teams that always make weird moves. They were a play-in team for several years when they should have just traded away different parts, but I don't know, guys. I feel a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I was disappointed because Kyle Anderson was coming to the Toronto Raptors. Now he's not. And it's kind of teasing. It's like teasing a little child with candy. You put it in his face, and as soon as he goes to take the bite, you pull it back, and then that candy never comes back. That's what it feels like with the Toronto Raptors right now. Of course, I'm one of those fans that just absolutely loves trades. Now, do I want to make trades for the sake of making trades? Absolutely not. I do think that's a little bit foolish if the Raptors were to just make trades for the sake of making trades. But with that being said, I do think it is important to note that a team like the Toronto Raptors that has expiring contracts like Chris Boucher, like Bruce Brown, you got Davion Mitchell as well. Don't forget about his expiring contract. And then you got other pieces as well, like Kelly Olynyk, who a lot of teams are interested in. If the Raptors don't end up doing anything, all I'm going to say is I'd be pretty disappointed. So Shams Charania, man, he seems to have something against the Raptors because it hasn't been there. It hasn't been there. So yeah, apparently Andrew Wiggins is going to the Golden State Warriors. If you're just tuning in, so a little bit disappointed, guys. Kyle Anderson, that was coming to the Toronto Raptors. The deal fell through. Again, they were involved in a multi-team deal. Miami Heat were rerouting some parts. They sent Dennis Schroeder to Utah Jazz, and they were rerouting Kyle Anderson to the Toronto Raptors. For who? It wasn't actually a message. It wasn't written anywhere. Not by Shams Charania, but not by Jake Fisher either. So a little bit disappointed, man. A little bit disappointed as to trade details falling through. All of these situations with the Raptors just being so funky again. A lot of people said this. I don't think it's the case, but a lot of people are saying maybe this means that Brandon Ingram is coming to the Toronto Raptors. I doubt it highly. I don't believe that's the case right now, but I do believe it is one of those situations where the Raptors probably don't want to. Yeah. Oh God. Here we go, guys. So this is not news a lot of people are going to like. Shams Charania is just reporting Miami is keeping Kyle Anderson for now. Sources say so. Wiggins, PJ Tucker, and Kyle Anderson are in Miami, along with Warriors protected first round picks. So it looks like the Toronto Raptors are not, unfortunately. Hey, Luca, what's up, man? How's it going? Yo, what's up, bro? Crazy stuff. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. For those that don't know, I don't even know if Luca knows this, but he is one of the YouTubers that inspired me to make my YouTube channel. So, Luca, I appreciate you being here. But yeah, a little bit surprising, man, with this whole trade scenario. And not only that trade scenario, Jimmy Butler re-signed. Kyle Anderson came to the Raptors, and then he left literally a minute later because apparently that deal fell through. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with Miami and Kyle Anderson situation here. I hope we get more details soon, but yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. This is such a weird situation for a Toronto Raptors team, and it's been a bad couple of years, guys. It's been a bad couple of years, if we're being completely honest, and very disappointed. Very disappointed. I actually put in a lot of work to finding the right pictures, creating that thumbnail. And if you're watching this video after the live stream has ended, apparently the Raptors are not getting Kyle Anderson, which is very, very sad. Very sad because I like Kyle Anderson. I like Kyle Anderson for several reasons. I truly believe that he fits on the Toronto Raptors really well. For one, he is a good defensive player, a sound defender. He's not someone that's going to lock down opposing players, but he is someone that provides good quality defense. And that's the most important thing about Kyle Anderson. But aside from that, he's a smart, high IQ basketball player. So when we talk about roster construction with the Toronto Raptors, that is one of the reasons you need high IQ basketball players, along with Scotty Barnes, because they know when to make the right passes. They can read the court really well. And Kyle Anderson just seems to be one of those players, and it gives you depth at the forward position, most importantly. For a Toronto Raptors team that doesn't have a lot of depth, I know we got Jonathan Mogul. People are going to say, well, we got Chris Boucher, we got Kelly Olynyk, but players that are actually going to be here for more than one season, So I was really excited about Kyle Anderson coming here. I'm very disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I was very disappointed that we did not land anything in that deal. So the Raptors were holding out for Chris Boucher because apparently they did receive an offer. If you haven't seen my last video, check it out. Apparently, the Toronto Raptors did receive a trade offer from the Clippers, but they rejected it. So again, most likely it was a situation of the Toronto Raptors very likely receiving 1 second-round pick and PJ Tucker for Chris Boucher. I'm happy the Raptors didn't do that deal. It also did state the report that the Toronto Raptors are apparently holding out for a better deal, but also a multi-team deal. And now that Jimmy Butler is gone to the Warriors and the Raptors are no longer involved, it really makes you wonder what's going to happen with Chris Boucher, what's going to happen with Bruce Brown. Are we going to be in one of those situations we hear a million gazillion trade rumors about the Toronto Raptors, and then tomorrow comes, 3 p.m. Eastern time comes and goes, and then Masai Ujiri's up on the podium, and saying, well, we couldn't find the right deals. This is disappointing as a Toronto Raptors fan because I've given Masai a lot of what's the right term to use here? When we talk about Masai, he's gotten a lot of hate in the past, and I've kind of just said it's okay. General managers make mistakes, executives make mistakes. I've given him the benefit of the doubt. But if the Raptors do not make a move at this year's trade deadline, I'm going to be highly disappointed. I'm going to be highly disappointed given their situation last year where they were potentially receiving a first-round pick from New York Knicks or whichever mystery team it was for Bruce Brown, and the Raptors held up because they didn't want to get apparently not good enough for Masai Ujiri to get a first-round pick for Bruce Brown. And now you're telling me Now you're telling me that the Raptors might just be stuck with Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher up until free agency, and one of them leaves, the other one comes back for who knows how much. But it's disappointing. So these are the full details, guys. I do want to say it's not 100% yet. It was being reported that Jimmy Butler goes to the Warriors. The Miami Heat receive Andrew Wiggins, PJ Tucker, a first round pick. The Pistons, Detroit Pistons of all teams, found a way to get involved in this trade. They got Lindy Waters the third, Joshua Richardson, a second round pick. Jazz get Dennis Schroeder, and then it said Raptors get Kyle Anderson, but that no longer seems to be the case because the uh, Miami Heat are keeping Kyle Anderson. So very disappointed. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on what this. What was your initial reaction? Are you guys big Kyle Anderson fans? And what do you think of this? Is the game still going on? I'm not gonna lie, guys. I haven't been paying attention to the game. It was more of just the trade rumors that have just really gotten me going. But very, very disappointed that the Raptors weren't able to find themselves involved in a multi-team deal, especially when you get teams like the Detroit Pistons getting involved. You got teams like the Utah Jazz that have already got involved in the Luka Doncic trade as well. So very disappointed, very disappointed. Luka, you do say appreciate you, bro. Enjoy your content. You know your stuff. What do you think the Raptors end up doing? Luka, I really do pray. I hope I'm wrong here. I have a bad feeling about the Toronto Raptors. They may make one minor trade. I see the Toronto Raptors making maybe one minor trade, and that's it. Maybe like Davion Mitchell gets traded for a second round pick and one random player, and then that ends up being it. Unfortunately, with Bruce Brown, I just don't see him being moved, guys. Even with these Brandon Ingram trade rumors, I just feel like when you talk about the fit from Brandon Ingram's point of view, who would you rather go to right now, Atlanta Hawks or the Toronto Raptors? I think for them, it would make, for him in particular, it would make more sense to go to the Atlanta Hawks. I know Jalen Johnson is out for the year, but him and Trey Young, I think they really cook there. Obviously, we don't know the extent of Brandon Ingram's injury as well, but I do see him going to the Atlanta Hawks, and it just seems like Atlanta could just, I don't know. Atlanta seems like one of those teams that we've already seen in the DeJounte Murray trade. They're not afraid to give up picks. They're not afraid to give up picks. And I think that's where the difference comes between the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors. The Toronto Raptors aren't going to give up two first round picks for Brandon Ingram. And gosh, if they do, I'm going to lose it. But Atlanta Hawks on the other side, it seems like they might be a team that might throw in a first round pick, a pick swap as well, maybe a second round pick, other salary fillers as well for Brandon Ingram. And they are desperate. Keep in mind that Trey Young is, someone that they've kind of tried to pair up with DeJounte Murray. That didn't work out. Jalen Johnson was doing fine, but he's out for the season with injury. So they're definitely going to try and get Trey Young a little bit of help. I just feel like Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes aren't going to fit well together. That's just such an odd fit because ideally both of the players, both of those guys are power forwards, and you're going to try to play one out of position, play him at the small forward position. I don't really like that fit. I know people are going to state, well, he's played with Zion Williamson. He's played the small forward position there. What's the big deal? I just don't like the Brandon Ingram fit with the Toronto Raptors. I'm going to be very honest and blunt. And I don't know if the Raptors make a move, man. This is very disappointing. This is very disappointing because you would hope the Raptors would find a way to get involved in not only the Jimmy Butler trade and other situations as well. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns weren't able to make a deal there, but still very disappointed with the Toronto Raptors. Let's go to some of these comments here. So Marlon says, I believe Miami is holding onto the pieces to potentially be part of KD Phoenix sweepstakes. KD didn't want to go to the Golden State Warriors. I don't know about that. I don't know about that because I truly feel, Marlon, if the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns wanted to trade KD, it could be a possibility. Like, you're not wrong. Don't get me wrong. It could be a possibility. I'm not saying it can't happen at all. But I also could see the Phoenix Suns not wanting to help initiate that trade because if Jimmy Butler was going to the Warriors, what motivation do the Suns have to get involved in a three-team deal, right? They wanted Jimmy Butler for themselves, and they're clearly not able to do that. So then what's the point of the Phoenix Suns being involved with the Miami Heat and the Warriors, where the Warriors receive Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant would go to Miami Heat, and then who's going to the Suns? They're not trading KD for Andrew Wiggins. So do they have the motivation now? I don't think so. I don't know if they do because for one simple reason only, if you're trading KD, you better be getting some really, really good players back. And when you look at players that the Miami Heat currently have that could contribute right away, you think of guys like Tyler Hero. Let's be honest, they're not even if they do trade Tyler Hero, does he really fit with the Phoenix Suns there? I mean, he's a guard. Devin Booker's a guard. Bradley Beal's a guard. Not necessarily, right? So KD coming to Toronto, says Manjeet. I would love that maybe like 4 years ago when we had Pascal, when we had OG. But yeah, no, nothing, no new news, but I'm very disappointed. Maybe the Raptors make a trade tonight. The last time the Raptors made a trade deadline deal like that with Jakob Poeltl, it was around 12 o'clock at midnight, and it was, I believe, within 20, 30 minutes of KD getting traded. So if KD does get traded, maybe Jakob Poeltl gets traded, maybe the Raptors make a trade. Who knows? Maybe, But in terms of the Toronto Raptors, they're currently playing as well for some of you guys that are still interested in the game. They're losing to the Grizzlies 96-84. And very disappointing, actually. Scotty Barnes is really struggling today. 9 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 of 13 from the field. I'd expect a little bit better. Um, Kelly Olynyk also 3 of 10 from the field. And Grady Dick, 5 of 13 from the field, guys. I love the Toronto Raptors, but just turn off the game. Just focus on the trade rumors because not much is going to happen. Not much is going to happen in that game right now. So I don't know if for those of you guys who are watching, is Chris Boucher still playing in the game? Because apparently he left and he never came back, which might have been an indication that he was getting traded. But then we just never heard anything, right? Maybe the Toronto Raptors are waiting till the game is over to really announce it, just out of respect. But I don't know. It feels really weird with what's going on with the Toronto Raptors, and yeah. So we've got less than 24 hours to go to the trade deadline. Are the Raptors going to make a trade? I certainly hope so, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I would not hold my breath. Well, we can talk about some of the player targets since we are live streaming. We'll talk about some of the players that the Raptors should target. Unfortunately, I did have Kyle Anderson as one of the several players that I wanted on the Toronto Raptors to potentially target. We'll talk about some other players as well as to who the Raptors could potentially look to trade for, besides obviously Brandon Ingram. So in terms of who the Toronto Raptors should trade for, I'm going to kind of do a trade deadline preview here as well, just because I personally believe that. Well, I personally believe that a trade will go down late at night today or very early tomorrow morning, where the Toronto Raptors do make a trade. Is it going to be a major trade? I highly doubt it. I don't think so. But if a trade does happen, obviously Kyle Anderson, I would have loved for him to come to the Toronto Raptors. A few other guys I really had in mind. I would hope that Toronto Raptors were able to target specific guys. I know a lot of people do not like this, but I really do like someone like Isaiah Stewart. Now, what do the Raptors give up for Isaiah Stewart? It would have to be someone like Bruce Brown. The Detroit Pistons can absorb some salary. Now, you're asking why would a Pistons team and what motivation would they have to acquire Bruce Brown? One simple reason, and one simple reason only, for a Pistons team: you get off of Isaiah Stewart's contract for several seasons. He's making $15 million this season. But the reason I want the Raptors to try and acquire Isaiah Stewart is not because he is going to provide you 20 and 10 every night, is he's one of those players that is gritty. He provides a lot of toughness for the Raptors team. I feel like could really use it. I know we have Jonathan Mogbo. A lot of people are going to say they kind of overlap in terms of position and just in terms of not so much skill sets, but just what they are unable to do. Both guys can't really stretch the floor, so it may be a little bit of an odd fit. But I think the Raptors really need a tough player like that. When we talk about the Raptors retooling, rebuilding, and revamping the roster, you need someone like an Isaiah Stewart that can come in and do the dirty work, really fight for those rebounds. Again, he's not the most skilled center, power forward, whatever you want to call him, but he is one of those guys that when you talk about Isaiah Stewart, he's going to be someone that'll grind it out and give you 7 rebounds. He'll give you one steal, maybe a block a game. He'll give you 9, 10, 11 points a game. He's not going to necessarily fill the stat sheet, but he does all the dirty things required to win a game. And he's more of an energy guy as well. So Isaiah Stewart, keep that name in mind for the future. I don't think the Raptors will trade for him, at least not tomorrow, but I do hope at some point, I really do hope he ends up on the Toronto Raptors. Another player I had really liked for the Toronto Raptors was Moses Moody. I know they had just re-signed him, so it was a little bit of a challenge. And I don't even think, due to the Warriors signing him or extending his contract, I don't believe you can trade for Moses Moody now. But that was a player I really had liked for the Toronto Raptors. Not to mention that when you talk about Moses Moody, it was also a situation where he wasn't really fitting in with the Warriors. And it was also a situation for Moses Moody where he's Scotty Barnes' friend. If you remember during draft night, he was hanging out with Scotty Barnes. He's also someone that can play the small forward position and he can shoot 3-point ball as well, which is something the Raptors need. So again, Moses Moody would have been nice for a Toronto Raptors team. With this deal going on, I just don't see another deal happening with the Golden State Warriors. I don't think they're going to try and acquire anyone else. I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening unless they surprise everyone, just like how the Lakers did, and they end up trading Jonathan Kuminga and other picks. I don't even think the Warriors have enough salary now with all of the players they traded to really make another massive trade because their majority of cap, obviously, besides Draymond and Steph Curry, was Andrew Wiggins. It was also Kyle Anderson. So again, they have obviously traded Dennis Schroeder's $13 million contract as well. So the only other contracts they really have right now that you could throw together would be Gary Payton, who's making $9 million, Buddy Hield, who's making 8.7, Kevon Looney, who's making $8 million. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't see the Warriors making another trade. But in terms of the Raptors, there's a few names I like, but I don't think there's a way to make those trades happen. I'm very curious to who you guys think the Raptors should try and take, and I'll read some of the comments here before we move on to some of the other guys that I want to talk about. So Michael says Butler signed a 2-year extension with the Warriors. Yes, he did, and I was not surprised because Michael, I had tweeted this out just a few minutes prior to Shams reporting that he extended for 2 years. Was who's going to pay Jimmy Butler in free agency? No one has the cap space anymore, thanks to the new CDA rules, where you can just go out and sign superstar players. Even though Jimmy tried his hardest to force his way to the Phoenix Suns, it just wasn't going to happen. If we don't push for Lively, the trades Nico's been making, I'll be mad, says Dak Canadian. There's no way that we're trading for Derek Lively. I would love him on the Toronto Raptors. I just don't see it, guys. I know he's a lot of people are questioning, his IQ and his intelligence because he traded Luka Doncic. There's no way we're trading Lively for Lively because if the Mavericks do trade Derek Lively, they are probably going to trade for an all-star type of player. And I mean, unless they want RJ Barrett back, I don't see it happening. Stewart is also a bit of a troublemaker. Yeah, he is. He's definitely Isaiah Stewart is a player that has been causing a lot of trouble on court. But the reason I believe this is because I truly believe this. I think he wants out of Detroit. Now, why would he not just ask out of Detroit? You may ask for one simple reason only because when you talk about Isaiah Stewart, for role players like that to ask out, it really does affect their image across the league. And this is something Chris Boucher has actually touched upon as well, where he talks about there's been times where it's easy to just request a trade or say, I don't want to be here. And then you just end up not even getting any playing time on another team, or even worse, you end up out of the league because a lot of the ways that management views players nowadays is not only their skill set, not only how much money they're making, they're also looking at things like attitude on the court, off the court, their lifestyle as well. So those kind of things, when you're a role player and you come out and request a trade for no reason because you're not liking the minutes you're getting, it really does look bad. And you've seen a lot of players like that across the league where you just see a lot of players being bounced around. Dennis obviously being one of them, but it is one of those situations you have to be really careful. I'm down for Ingram on this team for Brown, Olenek plus Indy's first this year. Even though it's handcuffs to the cap, it's a valuable asset for expiring and worry about trades next year, says Scrambles. Scrambles, I said this earlier. I do like Brandon Ingram. I just don't see how it makes sense. Even if we do find a deal for Brandon Ingram without trading RJ Barrett, the one thing I will say regarding Brandon Ingram in particular is you got Brandon Ingram, you got RJ Barrett, you got Emmanuel Quickly, you obviously have Scotty Barnes, and then you have Jakob Pertl. Like you look at Jakob Pertl, take him out of the equation. He doesn't shoot threes. Scotty Barnes is shooting horribly from the three. RJ Barrett is okay. He's not someone I'd rely on shooting a lot of threes. Emmanuel quickly shoots threes. Brandon Ingram shoots threes. But now you got two out of your three starters that can shoot threes while the other three starters can't. So I just find the Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett fit really, really awkward. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, guys, but I just don't see RJ Barrett being a part of the Raptors' future. Not because I hate him, not because I dislike RJ Barrett, just because I feel like RJ Barrett for his position, for his size, he should be playing a lot better defense. And for a Toronto Raptors team that needs defense, he just doesn't provide very much of it. So I do think the Raptors will look to trade him, whether that's tomorrow or in the future, whenever it may be. I don't think they want to extend him past the current contract he has. We'll see if that actually happens. But again, I'm a little bit iffy on the Brandon Ingram trade as well. But he also traded Grimes and picked for someone worse as well. Yeah, Dan Canadian, I was listening to another YouTuber that was stating this, and he was saying the reason they traded Grimes was because they got Max Christie from the LA Lakers, who apparently is a really good defensive player. I haven't seen Max Christie play that much. And yeah, Scrambles is saying Jaren Jackson cooked him, Scotty airballed a three. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. It's been a rough game, guys. It's been a rough game for Scotty Barnes, and it looks like this game's getting out of hand here. The Raptors are down 14. Maybe they do something they did last game, where the Raptors have always done this with fake comebacks, as we like to call it, where you pretend to come back and then just fall a little bit short of a comeback. But again, really surprising news if you're just tuning in. Well, now they're down by. Oh wow, this game's just kind of blown out of proportion here. So the Toronto Raptors are down nearly 20 points here. 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and just not a good game overall, guys. Not a good game overall from the Toronto Raptors, particularly Scotty Barnes. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Maybe he's sad that Chris Boucher is leaving. Whatever the case may be, if he's dealing with an injury, I don't like making excuses. And oh, we got some other news as well, guys. We've got some other news. Stay tuned. Yeah, I don't like making excuses for players. I don't know why Scotty's struggling. It is what it is. But we got some news, and I don't know if this is okay. So the person who's reporting this Brandon Ingram, guys, news. We got some big news right now. Stay tuned. This person who's recording this is Cody Willis. Cody Willis on Twitter. He's a Raptors 905 reporter and writer. He's reporting, according to Sam Amick. Sam Amick, league sources say Toronto and Atlanta are neck and neck in pursuit of the 27-year-old former All-Star, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see an Ingram deal go down tonight. Brandon Ingram could come to Toronto as soon as tonight. So again, Sam Amick is reporting this. Cody Willis reported this, or I should say, tweeted this out on Twitter, stating this, that Atlanta and Toronto are apparently neck and neck trying to trade for the 27-year-old All-Star Brandon Ingram. Now, what does that deal look like? I really don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm not trading Emmanuel quickly, as a lot of people have stated in my video. And for those wondering where all of this hate for Emmanuel Quickly is coming from, it's Twitter, guys. Once you get on Twitter, I didn't really understand what a lot of people said when they talked about, some very toxic people being on Twitter. I don't like this. I don't like Emmanuel Quickly for Brandon Ingram. That trade makes no sense. And yeah, that's all. I'll leave it up to that. I'd rather trade RJ Barrett than Emmanuel Quickly. You need someone. You need someone to be able to shoot threes. And yeah, let's see what happens, guys. Let's see what happens. But if the Raptors do trade Brandon Ingram by tonight, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, and yeah, this is not good. All right, so Scrambles is saying I'm still picking up Ingram for Brown Olenek. I wouldn't trade Indies first, man. Scrambles. That's the only thing. I know it's probably going to take a first round pick to trade for Brandon Ingram. The only thing is, I do not wish to trade any sort of first round pick for Brandon Ingram. Let's just say at that. And the reason are the Raptors are in no position, guys. They're in no position. They're what, 11th, 12th in the Eastern Conference at the moment. And for them to be trading, excuse me, Brandon Ingram, okay, that's one thing. Oh, excuse me. It's one thing to be trading for Brandon Ingram as a 11th place team. It's another. Oh, do we have another? Okay, no. It's just NBA Central reporting on players. I thought we had another trade at the moment, but the Toronto Raptors are not even 11th, 12th. They're 13th in the NBA, in the Eastern Conference, excuse me, in the standings. You should not be giving up a first-round pick at all, if you ask me. Again, if you ask me right now, there's no way the Raptors should be giving up any sort of first-round pick. I don't care if it's Brandon Ingram. I don't care whatever the deal is. I don't like it. I don't think they should, So, unfortunately, And the Raptors, if they don't get it, I feel like a lot of people will turn on Masai Ujiri, start blaming him. I don't think it's a great acquisition for the Toronto Raptors. The best course is just stay on the tanking course. Get a top three, top four protected pick, not top four protected pick, just get a top four pick in the NBA draft. Get Cooper Flag, get Ace Bailey, get Dylan Harper, and we're set for the future. Then you get Scotty a running mate, and then also just that's it. Then you build your future off of that. You evaluate players like Jacoby Walter. You evaluate players like RJ Barrett. Is he part of the long term future? I personally don't think so. And then you keep Emmanuel quickly around for now, see how he progresses with his injuries as well. And yeah, so then you go on from there and then you build towards the future rather than trying to build a future right now as a 13th place team. Again, I can't remember the last time. Maybe you guys can tell me this. I cannot remember the last time a 13th place team in either conference traded a first round pick for an all-star player. It just seems like a very odd move for any sort of bottom of the league team to be doing. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for the Toronto Raptors to be trading first round picks. And I don't think they should. I don't think they should. It would be really strange if the Raptors did do that. Do we have another? Well, Jake Fisher's just reporting something here. Let's see if we got any news about. No, it's regarding the Jimmy Butler trade. So no new update. But yeah, again, according to Sam Emick, Toronto Raptors are looking again. They are looking to trade for Brandon Ingram, and league sources say that Toronto and Atlanta are neck and neck in their pursuit of 27-year former All-Star. It wouldn't surprise me in the least to see a Brandon Ingram deal go down tonight. That really sucks if it does go down tonight. I've been up since 4:30. I've been working 10, 12-hour shifts, and I was really hoping to get a good night's sleep tonight. But if the Raptors make a trade tonight, that'd be awesome. Don't get me wrong, it would be awesome, but it would just suck because I wouldn't see it until I wake up. But yeah, really interesting that we're getting some news about the Raptors. Will they actually make a trade, or is it just all smoke? Are the Atlanta Hawks? Are the Atlanta Hawks using the Toronto Raptors as leverage for the the Pelicans using the Toronto Raptors as leverage to get more out of Atlanta? I will say keep that in mind because we've seen it multiple times. We've seen the Clippers do this where they were suggesting that they'll trade Paul George to the Toronto Raptors, but they were just doing that to get more out of OKC. You know, we saw this with Shohei Ohtani coming to the Blue Jays, and then it was just to get more money from the LA Dodgers. So will this happen again? I certainly hope not. It would really leave a sour taste in my mouth if the Raptors did get used as a team for leverage for another team to give up more. But I don't like this. I don't like this at all. It wouldn't be a good look. Would I be upset if the Raptors traded for Brandon Ingram? Absolutely not. I don't think I'd be upset if they gave up multiple first round picks. I'd absolutely be upset. But I just don't see a way in which I just don't see a deal in which the Raptors get Brandon Ingram without giving up a first round pick because you got the Atlanta Hawks who are going to give up a first round pick as well. So again, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. Just stay in tune. I'm gonna keep updating my phone like a maniac and looking at it. And yeah, if there's some news that does break out, we will be talking about that on this channel. You can bet that for sure. But let's see what's going on in terms of the scoreboard for the Toronto Raptors. It's 5 minutes to go. The Raptors are down 22 points. And yeah, just not a great game overall for the Toronto Raptors. Memphis is a good team. They'll give them credit, you know. So Michael says Scotty hobbled with ankle injury from last week and still playing hard on both ends. Michael, I'm going to be honest. I'm not watching the game, so I have no idea what's going on. If he's injured, he needs to sit down because you don't want to keep hearing these excuses about, you know, Scotty Barnes isn't playing well because Fred is taking shots. Scotty Barnes isn't playing well because we need to rebuild. You know, Scotty Barnes isn't playing well because Nick Nurse's fault. Scotty Barnes isn't playing because he's injured. After certain points, we as fans have to stop making excuses for Scotty Barnes. He's had a bad game. It's okay. Shit happens. Move past it, and let's see what happens next. What about trying to trade for DeJounte Murray and use Missy? It's not going to happen. DeJounte Murray is injured. They're probably going to ask for a couple first round picks, excuse me, as well. So again, I don't see it. I don't see DeJounte Murray being moved. If the Pelicans were to try to move off of DeJounte Murray, you can bet they'd move off of Zion Williamson first and then look to move off DeJounte Murray. Yves Missi is so young. He's like 21 years old or something, and he's a good center. There's no way the Pelicans move off of him unless you give him like 2 first-round picks, which I don't think the Raptors should do. Mitchell isn't coming back next year. Shed is going to claim his spot. Walter is going to take Obaji's job too. That saves money. Mogul might take Boucher's job. The rookies this year are huge to scramble. Yeah, they are. The rookies have been impressive. However, I will say one thing, and I'm not trying to disrespect Jamal Shed. I'm not trying to disrespect Jonathan Mogul. But if the Raptors do find someone, again, they do find someone in a first round this year that plays the same position as them, with respect to those guys, their minutes are definitely going to be reduced because that player is definitely going to get more minutes. We also have Portland's second round draft pick as well. So that's, well, with the way the Portland Trailblazers are playing, unfortunately, they're winning a lot of games, which could be good depending on how you view the Toronto Raptors tank. But we also own their second round pick, which means that pick is going to be in the 40s. So that's going to kind of suck as well. Hawks make more sense for Ingram with Johnson out for the season, says Michael. Michael, I absolutely agree. I just, again, even from I was talking about earlier how, from Brandon Ingram's point of view, which team are you taking? The Atlanta Hawks, you're playing with Trae Young, or the Toronto Raptors? And I'm not comparing the players, guys, before you say I'm comparing Trae Young to Scotty Barnes. I just think it is a case of, I just find that fit is a lot better with Scotty, or I should say Trae Young, rather than Scotty Barnes. I just find the position to be overlapping. And if RJ Barrett is still on that team as well, then that fit gets really weird as well. So again, I don't know about that. If the Hawks had a better offer, they would already make a deal for Ingram. Raptors must have the better offer on the table. Scramble, you could argue if the Raptors had the better offer, wouldn't the Pelicans just accept it? Or do you think the Pelicans are holding out till last minute to squeeze out the most possible out of each team? So that's the only thing, logical reason as to why I can see that deal hasn't been done. Full Time and Fam Jam are asking, Raptors should pick up Cameron Johnson. It's just not going to happen, man. Cam Johnson is an awesome player. I love him. But I just feel like with Cameron Johnson, he's what, 26, 27 years old, and you're going to be giving up 2 first-round picks. And people, we do need to keep in mind, I'll pull up Cam Johnson's stats right here because I want to look back to his Phoenix days and talk about how players play so much more different when they are on a lottery team and the second or third option or the first option, and when they are on a team like the Phoenix Suns. So for the record here, the last season with the Phoenix Suns, he played 17 games, averaged 13 points, 3.8 rebounds. This is Cam Johnson. We're talking about 1.5 assists. And as soon as he got traded to the Brooklyn Nets as a second option, he was averaging 16 points, uh, 2.1 assists, and 4.8 rebounds. So obviously your stats, and this season he's averaging, of course, 19 points, 4 rebounds, nearly 3 assists a game. So when you talk about someone like Cam Johnson, it's the same situation we talk about when you talk about, I'm not comparing the two players, but Dennis Schroeder, look how great he looked on a team like the Brooklyn Nets when you're running the offense, playing 30, 35 minutes a game, and you have the ball in your hands a lot more touches. You're pretty much the one of the 2, 3 main guys on the roster. And then look at how he's playing as a backup on the Warriors. His stats have nearly been cut in half, and that's why the Warriors did decide to treat him as well. But again, I just don't see a deal where the Raptors get Cam Johnson. The asking price is simply too high. And yeah, I don't see it. I don't see a deal getting done between the Raptors and the Brooklyn Nets here. Raptors only making small trades, guys. Ingram isn't happening. I agree. I just don't see a way in which the Toronto Raptors get Brandon Ingram, guys. It just, okay. I'm going to pull up the Atlanta Hawks, and I'm going to be talking about some of their assets that they can trade. And Utility Sports, if you don't watch him, he's an awesome YouTuber. He just tweeted out Hawks and Raptors fans should both be hoping to not land Brandon Ingram. And, that's coming from someone who's very knowledgeable about basketball as well. So let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks roster and what they could possibly give up in terms of Brandon Ingram. And Brandon Ingram makes approximately $36 million. So keeping in mind, you're probably going to have to trade away DeAndre Hunter or Clint Capella, both making $21 and $22 million. You got Bogdan Bogdanovic, who you can throw at $17.2 million. And besides that, you got Onyeka Okon, who's making $14 million. Now, this is where it kind of drops off for the Atlanta Hawks in terms of salaries. How are you going to make the salaries work? Are they going to trade Clint Capella, Bogdan, or DeAndre? And are those three players really worth trading for if you're the Pelicans, particularly for Brandon Ingram? I don't necessarily think so, So unless they're including someone like Kobe Buffkin, and I don't like that deal for the Pelicans for one simple reason, because you already got you already got so many guards there. You got DeJounte Murray, you got CJ McCollum, you got I'm trying to remember the specific name, but they have a yeah, Jordan Hawkins. So you got 22-year-old Jordan Hawkins, who's also plays a guard position as well. You got Jose Alvarado, who plays a guard position as well. So way too many guards on that team. So I don't see a way in which the Atlanta Hawks would have a lot to give up in terms of assets that would be really attractive for a Pelicans team. But I do believe they can. What I believe the Atlanta Hawks are probably going to do is throw in a couple second round or first round picks, which the Raptors probably won't. So Atlanta. So Atlanta Hawks. Let's see how many future picks they have. They have LA's right now. 2025, the Lakers first round pick they have, which is no protection. They can trade that. They have Sacramento Kings protection, top 12 protected first round pick. They also have their own 2026 first round pick. San Antonio does have the right to swap that. And then they can go into 2028, 2029, 2030 as well, 2030 first. So that's where it gets interesting with the Atlanta Hawks. They do still have, despite the fact that they traded so many picks for DeJounte Murray, I do believe the Atlanta Hawks will, offer up more future draft capital as compared to the Raptors. That's just how they function. I feel like Atlanta Hawks are one of those teams that would rather trade a first to get Trey Young some sort of help as opposed to the Raptors throwing in 2 first round picks. So yeah, I don't know. Someone is suggesting here that Shaq is suggesting, or said he said that Atlanta does not have a first round pick next year. I'm on Fanspo right now, and it's showing me all of the picks they have for next year. It says for 2026, it says the San Antonio Spurs have the right to swap. It's 2026 first round pick for Atlanta. So, I mean, they still will have a first round pick. It just might not be their own because the San Antonio Spurs may decide they want to swap that pick and maybe get a higher pick again. Depending, I don't see the Atlanta Hawks being that bad of a team, but I also don't think the Spurs will be. But let's see what happens. Let's see if there's any news update about the Toronto Raptors thus far. Yeah, so the only news update we have gotten on here is that Raptors and Atlanta Hawks are the Raptors and Atlanta Hawks are neck and neck. Yeah, it's being reported by Legion Hoops as well that the Raptors are, trying very hard to acquire Brandon Ingram. I don't really understand it. Maybe you guys do understand this a bit better, but I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like Brandon Ingram to the Raptors. It would be fun. It'll be one of those trades that where the Raptors may make the play-in tournament, and for the future they might become a second round team. But that's their ceiling. I just don't see how the Raptors are going to become better than a second round team, excuse me, in the playoffs by acquiring Brandon Ingram. So again, it depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to sell to the fan base that, hey, we've got a playoff team, then sure, you can do that. A lot of fans will be happy about the Raptors making the playoffs yet once again, especially after the season we've had. But I don't like that. I don't like that trade. It doesn't make sense for the Raptors. Again, if it's Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, don't get me wrong. I do that in a heartbeat in a couple of seconds, but you're most likely giving up at least one first round pick, it's disappointing. It would be disappointing to say the least. Scramble says, I do all that if Ingram was healthy, but since he's not, Only one pick from Indiana. Michael also says Raptors front office never leaks, so neck and neck is total BS. Michael, not necessarily. I used to believe that too. The only key thing about the Raptors never leaking is, if you recall, I don't know if you guys were up late that evening or night, you want to call it, when the Raptors traded for Jakob Hurtle. Jake Fisher reported this 2 or 3 hours before. He said the Raptors, I still have the screenshot on my phone, and I'll actually pull it out here. Jake Fisher reported this, and people are just making fun of him, of course, saying that the Toronto Raptors are going to trade for Jakob Poeltl by tonight, and it will not include Gary Trent Jr. That's what the report was saying. And then several hours later, we saw that the Toronto Raptors ended up trading for Jakob Poeltl, and the rest is history. So let's see if I can find that screenshot of when Jake Fisher said that. But of course, just as I say that now, I probably won't be able to find it. But yeah, so here it is, guys. I still have a shout out to Rap City from back in the day. I said Jakob Poeltl is expected to be traded to the Raptors by tonight. Trent will not be involved, and that was Jake Fisher. I don't know if you guys can read that, but Jake Fisher reported that, and then several hours later, the Raptors did acquire Jakob Poeltl. So I don't necessarily think it's a case of the Raptors not, leaking. Just with how much media is around social media, with so many reporters reporting things, so many people having sources. It'd be different if this was 10 years ago. You know what? Just social media and technology in general, just there's so much information out there. Just is so hard to keep things under wrap. Unless, of course, you're the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Lakers and you make the surprise trade for Luka Doncic and AD as well. So do I think the Raptors will get a trade done by tonight? Possibly so. I think it'll be one of those trades that's possibly going to be a 12 a.m., 1 a.m. type of trade, and the Raptors trade for Brandon Ingram. So, do you like that trade? I personally don't, but we'll see what happens. And honestly, if Masai does something, he clearly knows more than I do. And there's so many things. I always say this about the Toronto Raptors. Even when you're talking about trades, there are so many things that we as fans do not know. So again, whatever those news, maybe whatever that news that us fans will never get, we'll never know. But it's easy to say that Masai Ujiri didn't do this, Masai Ujiri didn't do that. But yeah, let's see what happens in terms of trade rumors. And it looks like the Toronto Raptors are definitely going to lose this game because it's a minute left and they are down. Let's see how good my math is here. They are down here 28 points to the Memphis Grizzlies. Just a downright horrible game here for the Toronto Raptors. And yeah, it's not been a good game for the Toronto Raptors. RJ Barrett's out, Emmanuel Quickly's out. Scotty Barnes is struggling, unfortunately, but yeah, just not a good game for the Toronto Raptors, and they're going to lose. So not a good night for the Toronto Raptors. We got Kyle Anderson, and then 5 minutes later we didn't because there's some sort of issues going on, and now we have no one. So Michael is saying that deal was already completed. San Antonio and Toronto would never leak prior to completing their deals. Michael, no, that I would not lie. That screenshot was actually several hours before that deal actually happened. That's why Rap City, if you guys remember them from back in the day, they always reported on Instagram. That's why they were reporting that. And then that deal happened. Maybe they did complete it. Who knows? But Jake Fisher wasn't wrong, when he did say that a trade will be done by tonight. Shaq is saying New Orleans want expiring deals because they don't want to be in the tax next year. Yeah, they definitely do want expiring contracts. There's no doubt about it. But if they are trading Brandon Ingram, they will also definitely like draft capital as well. Now, considering, again, I know it's a completely different situation, but considering that the Miami Heat only got one first-round pick for Jimmy Butler, and I think they were just so over it. They really want to get rid of him. You wonder, can you get Brandon Ingram on the low? If you can, then it is what it is. I'm still not a big fan of the trade, but obviously if the Raptors are going to trade Bruce Brown and they can't find anything else or anyone else to trade or anyone to take on Bruce Brown's contract, then it makes sense. But again, I'm still a little bit kind of on here. I'm 50-50 about the trade if the Raptors do trade for Brandon Ingram. But hey, if they get him, they get him. You know what? We support Brandon Ingram and we root for the Toronto Raptors, and that's all that matters. Hawks don't have that to offer. That's why Raptors have a better offer. And then Ingram becomes an asset. And to be honest, quickly feels like the most likely to be traded next year, says Scrambles. You can pick up Ingram now and give Quickly more chances and likely trade him if you can't play defense. Between Ingram, Barrett, and Quickly, it's Quickly who's probably the easiest to trade, anyways. And then, yeah, Scrambles, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know if they're trading Emmanuel Quickly because one of the most valuable assets he has is he shoots a lot of threes, which you need in today's NBA. And the Toronto Raptors, look, they try to reconstruct their roster. They went from the 6'9", switchable defense BS, which I never liked and everyone hyped up, to now all of a sudden having a very strange roster where you got guys like Davion Mitchell that can play defense but can't shoot, can't really score. You got Jonathan Mogbo, who's obviously a rookie. He's good. I'm not gonna, shit on him too much. But then you also got some weird pieces in there as well, right? Some weird veterans where Chris Boucher is playing great the last, whatever, 20, 30 games, don't get me wrong. But is he part of this future? Is he part of the Raptors for the long-term future? He's going to be what, 31, 32? Does it make sense for the Toronto Raptors to re-sign him to 7, 8, $9 million for 2, 3 seasons? I personally don't think so. So that's where the roster construction is still a bit funky. You need to decide what you want to do. So when you look at a team like the Sacramento Kings, they have absolutely committed. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's the best way to build a roster, but they know what direction they want to go in. They're not committing to defense. They're all offense. They acquired Zach LaVine to add on to DeMar DeRozan, Demontis Sabonis, of course, and you got Malik Monk, who's already there. Now they acquired Jonas Valanciunas, who doesn't play defense, but hey, they know what direction they want that team to be, and that's going to be strictly scoring, and that's all they want. So it'll be interesting to see how the Raptors kind of juggle this roster and how they kind of work on things. But again, I don't think Emmanuel Quickly is going anywhere. I think RJ Barrett will be traded first. My personal opinion. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes, and who knows, But Michael Todd says, no, not you lying. Fisher got in info after the fact. No Kawhi leak either until the trade was completed. Yeah, that's true. But we did hear a lot of we heard a lot of we heard a lot of. I don't like this because I don't like gambling sites. I'm not a gambler myself, but a lot of betting odds were stating that Kawhi Leonard 2 days prior, 2 or 3 days prior to the Raptors are the favorites. The Raptors are the favorites to land Kawhi Leonard. So clearly they know something, and who knows? Anderson is 31 and doesn't fit the timeline, right? Says Samson Ironman. The thing about Kyle Anderson, I do want to state this. I want to pull up his stats because he's one of those players, despite being 31, like I said, he's still going to play in the NBA for at least another season. And I know I just said, Chris Boucher doesn't fit because he's older, and now I'm talking about Kyle Anderson fitting. The difference between Kyle Anderson, it's just I find his game is going to age like fine wine. Look, I know his point production has dropped over the several seasons, but you're not bringing Kyle Anderson in to score 15, 20 points for you. You're bringing Kyle Anderson in to do several things for you, which is something the Raptors like a lot of players to do, which is handle the ball, initiate the offense. Don't get me wrong. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying Kyle Anderson is a great offense initiator, but he can pass the ball. He's someone that sees the floor well. He's someone that can get you a lot of assists. He'll get you rebounds as well. And then he'll do a little bit of everything. Again, he's not a master of one trade. I forget the exact code, guys. Again, I do apologize. I've been up since 4:30 a.m. Not even 4:30. I apologize. 3:30 a.m. So I'm a little bit. My brain's kind of running in circles here. But Kyle Anderson is a good player. You know that the Raptors would have loved to have. Obviously, they want him. I wanted the Raptors to get him for several seasons. He's a good defender, sound defender. He kind of does a little bit of everything. Jack of all trades, master of none is pretty much what I was trying to say. So he's one of those players that's still probably going to play until he's 34, 35 years old, unless no team wants him. But yeah, Wolves miss Anderson as he was total glue guy. Yeah, Michael, I agree. I don't know about the glue guy part because I do remember him and Rudy Gobert having that little fight on the bench, but he is someone that will provide quality minutes. So when we talk about NBA roster construction, of course, you want to have talent, but what is also very important is to have guys like Kyle Anderson that can come in, play quality minutes, so the drop off isn't massive. I'm not saying he's on the same level as Scotty Barnes. But when you're having Scotty Barnes replaced by Kyle Anderson, it's not as if you're getting, a G League player out there where, in 2 minutes, as we used to see with the Raptors bench in the past, where in 2 minutes they give up 15 points. So the whole point of role players is to provide quality minutes while your starters are resting. And Kyle Anderson would have been excellent on this team. I stand by that. Kyle Anderson would have been excellent on this team, but I guess no trades are happening unless we got any more updates. So yeah, no updates so far, but Raptors unfortunately lost this game 107, 138, and no trades, no trades. All right. Every time they put him in the lineup, the defense suffers and Raptors lose so far this year. Scrambles, I'm not quite sure which player you're talking about here. Why does it matter? NBA games are so rigged anyways. They're not going to let Toronto win anything, right? Regardless of who you trade for. Mike, I used to believe that, but I mean, I don't believe it anymore, guys. The Raptors did win a championship with Kawhi Leonard, and yeah, the rest is history. Masai is all about making great deals. Toronto only has 2 contracts on the books beyond 2 years. Also, having picks in a deep draft this year and next allows Toronto to shape the roster. I agree. It is very important for the Raptors to shape their roster, especially within this next year and a half, I believe. Those are going to be crucial years, but this is something I want to talk about regarding Jakob Poeltl as well. When we talk about him, I just don't see the Raptors and Jakob Poeltl having a long-term future here. Now, do I say this? Do I hate Jakob Poeltl? Absolutely not. But the important part to note with someone like Jakob Poeltl is he has a player option after next season. So essentially, he's going to be expiring in another year and 4 months. So we don't have a lot of time to trade him. I know the Raptors are fielding offers. They're not exactly getting what they want for someone like Jakob Poeltl. But that's why it's so important. That's why it's so important for the Raptors to move off him now, or else you're going to have a situation next year where it's an expiring contract. Teams aren't going to give you a lot for a 4-month rental. Again, I want to reiterate, Jakob Poeltl has a player option for, I believe, 19 or $20 million, and he's definitely going to opt out and ask for more. So I just don't see a deal where the Raptors would want to pay Jakob Poeltl $24 million, $27 million, whatever new contracts look like the following offseason as well. So it's best for the Raptors to move off of him now, get what you can, and then see where you go on from there. So I also feel like they need more of an athletic rim protector as well. And Jakob, for as well as he does in a lot of things like passing, setting screens as well, he does have a lot of qualities that the Raptors need in a center that he doesn't, like 3-point shooting, just shooting in general, and then just free throw shooting as well, which allows you to play centers in late game situations as well. So we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. But again, if you're watching this video after it's uploaded and this live stream has ended, it's not because the Raptors did trade for Kyle Anderson. It's because the deal fell through. Apparently, the Toronto Raptors were trying to get Kyle Anderson. It was being reported by Raptors or Shams Charania, excuse me, and Jake Fisher that the Raptors received Kyle Anderson from Miami. And then 5 minutes later, it said the deal, there's some sort of things going on in which the deal fell through. So whatever the situation was, I'm sure we'll get more details following up. But that's going to be it for this live stream. So again, I want to thank you guys for being here. Here's to hoping the Raptors make some quality trades within, whatever next 12, 15 hours, whatever is left, 16, 17 hours left in the trade deadline. But very disappointing, very disappointing. I would have loved to have Kyle Anderson on this team. It might have been a very likely case of Chris Boucher heading out. Now, we don't know why the deal fell through. And I'm just going to take a few more questions here, guys, before I end this live stream. The idea is to acquire as much talent as possible. Then you can make deals. So getting Brandon Ingram right now is not a bad deal. Shaq, I've thought about that. I've thought about why the Raptors would want to trade for Brandon Ingram. You'll pay him whatever $40 million, which seems like insane. And then you can trade Brandon Ingram and future assets for that superstar player that you really want in in 2 years when you feel like you're ready to win. So I do think that is probably how Masai Ujiri is looking at this situation, because it's so hard to go from 13th place to 6th place and then trade for a superstar, especially when you'll be paying a lot of guys big money. You're already paying Scotty Barnes starting next season big money as well. So again, I think that could be a very realistic option for the Toronto Raptors. They want to acquire Brandon Ingram now. So in about 2 seasons, 3 seasons, when they feel like they're ready to go to the next level, trade him, trade future draft capital, trade young players for that superstar player that can put you over the hump as well. Sean says, just got in. Looks like we're going after Ingram. Yeah, Sean. So apparently the Raptors are neck and neck with Atlanta Hawks. They said a deal might go down tonight. But yeah, unfortunately, just like I was saying, unfortunately, the Raptors just did not land Kyle Anderson. I'm a big Kyle Anderson fan as well. I would have loved him on the Toronto Raptors, but unfortunately, nothing going on. So that will be it for the live stream, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a good night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow prior to the NBA trade deadline. And well, let's just take one more question here. If I remember correctly, he's hurt right now. So if we get Ingram, he stays out of the lineup. We get a shot at top 3 pick, sign Ingram with an extension, and we're back in the playoff mix. That it would be the ideal goal, Sean. But let's see what happens in terms of what the Raptors' goal is for long-term future. But then I do want to reiterate one thing, Sean. If we do get, let's say, Ace Bailey, who I absolutely love, I'm gonna announce it right now. I absolutely love Ace Bailey. How's that fit going to be, assuming you don't trade RJ Barrett? You got the same situation with the Raptors had several years ago where they were, they had Jakob Pearl, they had Pascal, OG, Fred, Scotty, and then you were moving Gary to the bench. So who's going to move to the bench if, let's say, we get Ace Bailey? So then it gets really complicated. Now you got a bunch of guys that are power forwards, kind of playing out of position. You got RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly. Whose ego are you going to hurt and put to the bench? That's the only question, right? So I would, again, there's so many different scenarios we can run through with Brandon Ingram, but we'll see if the Raptors even get him. Again, I'm trying to keep my expectations low, guys, just based off of past. I've done so many trade rumor videos about the Raptors, and the trade deadline comes and goes, and nothing happens. So again, I want to keep my expectations low. If something happens, it's great. If it doesn't, do not be surprised. So again, that'll be it for the live stream, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have yourselves a good night.